This is IBM Museum. All of the speakers I've ordered for possible replacements to that JBL Creature speaker system have arrived. And so I'm going to go over just what I'm looking at for the replacement. Among the models that I did get, kind of go over a little bit of the specifics. And it's not going to be a wrap-up video. I'm not going to have a completion of this today, but I will be a good part of the way along, just coming up with whatever tiny things I need to put in there to keep everything in place and be a nice, tidy package, just like if it were from the factory. So I'm going to get the internal webcam turned off here, get turned around, and we have the all the speakers I've ordered otherwise are over here on the right hand side. I can go through them, over them one by one. I do have this on the camcorder so I can go through and zoom in if I need to. I did go through and I opened up the satellite speaker that does not, it just has a speaker in there. It doesn't have any of the volume, capacitive volume control, the little touch things like the other one. That's on a circuit board itself. It's just that this model is a little bit less complex to go through and determine fitting and everything else. A speaker that I'll end up putting in here will of course fit in the other unit, and I'll go through with time to also open this up and do the replacement on that side as well. Now, so without the capacitive touch buttons, this cover comes off the top. I do actually have it a little bit apart. I can just show there's that chrome piece on the inside, and this has the this black piece nestles in there as well to hold the socket, the piece they had for the speaker in the past. Of course, that speaker has degenerated. I do have the the cone went through and degenerated, but I do have the magnet and the old coil assembly that was in there. I went through and I pulled the disconnected the wires from this floating coil assembly just to have this piece that was in there. This does lock into the assembly. It's actually where this is slotted all through here, and it has one area that's just slotted a little bit more. And I was initially looking at, of course, this just takes up too much room. I don't have a conventional replacement that goes through and fits inside this. So this plastic piece will come off the back, although I'll probably try and do some mounting or working with this assembly here to actually hold what I'm going to do as replacement speakers. Now, when this was in the unit, in this little cone, and get all this mounted the right way up. When it went in here, there's a little piece of this rubberized foam on the back, and it actually has a block that goes through. The reason that rubber pad has ridges is that the wedge shape that's pinning that down, and then there's the largest of these screws that goes through and pins that in place, that assembly, to hold that speaker in position. And then you have the tabs of the speaker leads coming off this assembly for connection here. And the disconnecting tabs, I'm not going to go through to have something soldered in place or solder the connections to the replacement speakers. I'll likely go through and work with something that's just like these tabs that are used. but I wanted an assembly that would physically fit in here much the same way, and that wedge block holding the speaker in place. And all the speakers I got in, and I even thought the last bunch were shown with even some flanges on the side, which is kind of different to me. But one of the first set I got in, and I don't know if I went through and I damaged the cone. They had these nestled together. They had very tight plastic, and I went through and they can't really go too much, but I may have gone through just in trying to work one out across the other cone. But these are 4 ohm, and remember, we want to replace these with 4 ohm because they were 4 ohm, even though it's not marked. But we did learn that in the videos and other things, that they have 4 ohm speakers in there, not any 8 ohm or anything else. We want to replace them with that same ohm rating. And these are 3 watt. And I kind of ordered them just to get an indication of the size. And first off, 3 watts is a lower wattage rating. I wanted something that's higher rated. So even going through and using these speakers really wasn't, my intention. Just they're low cost. They're easy to order quickly, just so I'd have an idea of what the speakers would come in. And they have nice, otherwise nice cones if I wouldn't have damaged it, or maybe it came that way where it was damaged and they didn't have that quality control, or just something. So since I only have the 2, I don't have a bigger idea of or more of a sample size to know if these things are commonly have the domes damaged. But just in the packaging, there's the potential to do that. You want to be very careful as you separate these. I was probably a little bit hasty. I'm not going to use them, but it's a good indication of for size. And these don't, it's even notable that with the metal, the permanent magnet in there, these don't even stick to my metal table enough. They don't give enough friction otherwise or anything else. But the next set I had come in, and they're very similar dome and things, very nice looking. This actually looks a little bit higher quality for the foam, the suspension foam of the speaker cone. And this is a 5 watt, and very evident right off the bat on the size of that permanent magnet that's in there. That just is outside the coil that you put the electrical signal down into the speaker or through that coil, and it reacts to the permanent magnet that's there. And these being 5 watt, that's a little bit better, higher wattage. And these would otherwise, they would be a nice little replacement speaker for me to put in. And even side view, you can see the difference in the sizes of that assembly for that permanent magnet at the end. And these actually do stick. It does stick well enough to the bench here. But I want to go through, and I had seen at the highest rating, you have to realize these are not going to have much wattage potential to them anyway. But I did order some, and I went through just with the idea of, since I ordered the 2 and one had the damaged cone, I went through and ordered 4 of these, and a little bit higher price point. They still aren't very bad. They're very affordable. And for me, getting a set of speakers working that a speaker system, even with a subwoofer that I paid nothing for, it was given to me, that's well enough for me to have spent this much. So these were, and it's not quite as shiny of dome, And these were advertised on an eBay sale as being 10 watt. And I thought, well, better being, too careful, or at least to double the wattage rating would be fine when I selected these. And indeed, that magnet is bigger for the permanent magnet that's there, that enclosure in there, a little cap. But on the back, these are still marked as 4 ohm, 5 watt. So, the auction listing or something, but I ended up getting these speakers that are ultimately marked as 5 watts, the same as the other one. And even though that back is so much, it's a little bit bigger than the other 5 watt speakers. And the thing I like too is that I'm finally, with the size of that, getting to the point where it's an even replacement. Actually, with the rubberized pad on the back of that, in place of this plastic assembly, this speaker works very well. And it doesn't have any of the lock-in, and that would be to mainly prevent rotation within that piece. Once you find the right keyway, that larger keyway, that's locked in. And so this speaker sitting on the flat area ultimately resolves to being very close. Get that assembly in there again, get it nestled in like it's supposed to be. And of course, I have to pay attention to the suspension, the foam suspension of the speaker. I would want to get on that little lip on the outside of how I would mount it. And of course, probably to have the connections there accessible to me. For ultimately, I'd like to not have solder. I'd go through and I would put clips on either side that would fit the connections of the base. And that wedge box, or little wedge, wedge piece, and this is just plastic, but you can see there that it has that real nice, even there, has that in very tight control, that if I just had some rubberized, something to make sure that speaker stays centered, and just a back pad would also prevent it from rotating too, as long as it crimps into that. I mean, and this is almost tight enough with the friction of that larger magnet for this to be a good group. And I have 4 of these, so it's real easy for me to to go through and use that, and that way I've got spares in case I mess something up, or down the road, even I have a second set if this were to happen to wear out, to have the same foam problems or whatever in the end. But this will be my go-to speaker replacement that I'll put in there. Now, one of the things I do have, and some of my dad's old calipers that are sitting around to give me measurements of the area I'd need. One of the things I do have, other tools, I have a Cricut Maker, and I also have the smaller Cricut Joy. And those are where they cut, I don't know how many people are familiar with those. You can look it up. It's Cricut is C-R-I-C-U-T, and they're accessing the cut aspect of it. It's actually cuts through even bond paper, you know, what's referred to as poster paper that's 20, it's going to be 80 up to 80 pounds. Probably even can go through other materials. They have it for making, cutting out labels and things like that. It's a real interesting device. So probably what I would do is, even if I have, you know, for some of the thinner double stick tape, it would even cut that to go effectively a little tiny ring on the outside of this. That would be that double stick tape that could hold that in position as well. Yeah, I thought, you know, it'd be where I could do something with, you know, the 3D printing aspect. I mean, certainly that is a possibility. That this would be pretty tight tolerances. It would be a very thin device that I'd probably have to focus on it quite a bit longer time than it'd be worth. But I mean, I could even put an assembly down there just to give a little bit more substance to that mounting area of how that, you know, but double stick tape would be fine to hold that in position. And then effectively, you know, using or the same rubberized material. And even rather than, I don't think that this would peel off this so much, but this is just like thin rubberized material. I mean, I could likely, the Cricut machines would cut through that as well. And it'd be real easy in the Cricut design space to go through and, you know, plan the engineering and do that little ring or a pad or anything else. I mean, that'd be very quick. I'd probably be able to do that within a matter of minutes to come up with this, rather than messing around with a 3D printing angle for the mounting. And then once that is done, I mean, those pieces cut on the Cricut Maker for each speaker side, pretty minimal amount of work that would go through, and I'd be able to get those mounted in. So probably once I do have a video of this or have this completed, I can do a video just to show what I came up with, and just an assembly of getting things back together, and a little bit of a sound test to find out how, you know, good these work, what the performance is like of them. So it just happens that that end piece, even though it's 5 watt, just it being a little bit bigger, that selects it with the quantity I have of 4 speakers of that style. And these were in a nice little plastic holder, a little bit better, to a plastic tray to preserve them in shipping. You know, they're all in good shape. The domes are undamaged. So I've got what I need as far as the materials of speakers. Just got to come up with those few little pieces to get this assembly put back together and get the position, the speaker into the correct position where it doesn't move around or anything like that. And that should be easy enough to do. So I just wanted to go through and provide the update on that. I'm looking forward to, now that these little replacement speakers finally all came in, that I can get a little bit further with this unit and get it back into service. I think it'll be nice. This is the big part of the subwoofer, bass, treble and bass controls on it. And then all the volume controls are in those capacitive touch. And so I want to see what this thing, you know, by all the reviews I've had, when people had them new, you know, they really high rating. But then, you know, with use and people talking about how the foam of those speakers degrade, you know, and I haven't gone there and replaced that one as of yet. I haven't pulled it out, but we have a nice little replacement to get this set back in service, working good for us. So if you enjoyed this content, by all means, click on that like button, and I'll have that diverse content like this as part of the channel. You know that by now if you're subscribed. If you're not a subscriber, please consider it. I need more subscribers. But that is all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.